Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Preppin Patriots live show. Changed up the title. We're going to call this a live show because that's what the heck it is. It's not a podcast. It's a live show. We'll get the podcast out later, but it's a live show. So how's everybody doing? What's up? Cameron, how you doing? Good. You doing good? Yeah.
Doing good, man. Man, so I haven't told anybody this yet, but I pulled my back out Sunday morning. It was horrible. You ever get in a moment where you're pretty much just crippled and you can't do anything?
Yeah,
that was this past Sunday. Any kind of back pain. If anybody ever experiences that, I feel sorry for you. But I've been dealing with random scenarios last few years, but pretty much was immovable for 24 hours. So much better now. So glad to be here. Glad we could do this. How about you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. I didn't pull my back out, so I had a much better weekend than you, obviously. No, weekend was good. We chilled out. Was able to get outside a little bit. Started prepping the garden. It was a little bit warmer up here in the cheese state, so I was able to get out on the tractor and start doing the first till in the garden. And we had I sent you pictures of it. So we had a little plot like we did last year. This a normal plot, like you would think, oh, family of 3, that's a perfect size. And I started tilling it, and I just kept going and going and going. And next thing you know, I have this like 150 foot by 30 foot area of tilled dirt that I'm like, cool, I think this is big enough for us.
I'm so jealous. Like, as soon as I saw the video, his wife sent a video saying, so I guess we're doing a large garden this year. All I saw was the massive tilled yard, and all I could think of was, it's glorious. I wish I had that in my own yard. I just don't have that space. And
the thought behind it is, we're doing a crap ton of corn. Like my wife's family, every year we chuck corn and, package it and freeze it. And I'm like, I want to do enough corn to where, we don't have to go buy all this now. We could just like harvest my corn and chuck it up and give it to all the family members and do all that stuff. And the amount of, I did my seed order today. The amount of like sauce tomatoes, like, cause there's a certain tomato that's like perfect for sauces.
Yeah,
and I looked it up. Paste tomato. I think I overkilled on the seeds on those because I got I think it was a pack of 1,000 of the pellet seeds of those things.
Gosh.
And I'm like, I'm not going to plant 1,000 tomato plants. But it was, I'm excited.
But,
so when I get excited, first of all, if you order seeds, don't do it when you're hungry. Cause I was starving. I'm like, oh, tomatoes sound good. I need more tomatoes. And I over ordered, but that's okay because a lot of them are in pellet form. We'll throw those in the chamber vac, seal them all up. They'll be good for a couple years. So in any case,
and I think stick them in the freezer. I think that's the other technique.
Freezer, fridge, one of those. I've done freezer before. Some people say fridge is better. I don't know. Who knows? And I know pellet seeds there's different, like their storage life is a little bit different because they're in pelleted form versus raw seed form. But in any case, before we get into tonight's topic, for those of you watching on the live show, and if I aggregate everybody on all the platforms that we live stream to, there's a few people watching. But if you are, do us a favor, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and throw us a comment. We have the live chats up, so we like these things to be engaging. So if you have a question, comment, concern, whatever, throw it in the chat. We'll see it. Because there's not 10,000 people on this live stream, we'll probably answer your question. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So wanted to give that shameless plug. And then I also, if you want to get in touch with us, or if you want to just, hey, where are you guys streaming to? Like you have a podcast, in the description of the live stream and both Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere else is streaming is our link tree. It's a link to Linktree. And what Linktree is just like, it just gives you all the links to our platforms. So if you're not a long form content watch on YouTube, you're a podcaster, you just like to throw a podcast in while you're doing dishes or mowing the grass or working, it has all of the we streamed all the major platforms. So Amazon, Spotify, all of them. So in any case, there's that. So now that we got business out of the way, let's get into tonight's topic. And I had a topic I wanted to bring up tonight, but then as I'm watching my normal daily YouTube feeds and news feeds and all that other stuff, man, I just had a thought. Like, my thoughts went back to, you remember, I think it started, remember when George Floyd was was killed, right? And there was all of this
Yep.
uprising and all this stuff, and then that led into a lot of other things. And you have Trump with the whole Capitol riots and all that stuff. And basically, the bottom line is there's a whole ton of like division in our country. And I don't think that's news. That's really not like news. Like everybody knows there's division. There's always been some level of division in our country, but I just feel like lately it's getting really, really bad. And I'm just like, can't we all just freaking get along? I mean, for crying out stinking loud, people, like we have enough problems to worry about. Can't we just try to be like good human beings and like treat each other with like halfway decent, like decency or whatever? So I figured I'd be like, you know what, let's address this. Let's talk about this. Let's debate about this whole divisiveness of our society, our culture, even in America. Like let's just lay it all on the table. And why is this happening? Where did it come from? Where did it start? I mean, and how do we get out of it? Can we get out of it? Like so much division, so much hate, so much this in all the world. And I think it relates to prepping as well. This can flow right into what we are all about here is preparedness, emergency preparedness, life preparedness, all that stuff. I mean, it can flow right into that. So that's what I thought about. I texted Cam, like, let's just talk about this. He's like, okay, let's do it. So any initial thoughts on that? I mean, are we cool to go this direction?
Yeah, I'm totally down for it. There's a lot of thoughts that come to mind, and I'm going to look up some of that content while you talk, because this was all JT. So as soon as you brought it up to me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. There's a lot of different routes we can go for this. But I agree. I think turmoil, the fights, the constant forcing certain people or groups against each other, it's just grown out of control. And I think that's by design. And I think, that you'll probably get into that as you're going through some of this stuff. But, I mean, you see it on the media, you see it, through government, you see it through, there's so many different aspects where they are pushing it on purpose. And then once that kind of gets engraved in people, I'm being oppressed. I'm being whatever. I need to think this certain way. It's hard to get that out of somebody's mindset once it's already that seed has been planted. It's hard to move away from that mindset. And I guess you could relate that to any topic. I mean, the prepper mindset, once you start, it's a lifestyle. It's not something that you can just get out of right away and move on to the next thing. So, I mean, I agree.
I 100% agree that it is something that is planned and coordinated. I mean, this week alone, let's not even talk about President Xi of China going to visit Russia and that whole thing. Let's just talk about, or let's just bring up one thing that happened this week that relates, it's just already causing division. It hasn't even happened yet, right? Somebody, was it Trump that tweeted out, or some news organization tweeted out or something like that, saying that he was potentially going to get arrested today on Tuesday. And I think this was posted on Friday or something like that. So Trump is going to get arrested and indicted for this hush money scandal thing, whatever. I don't want to get into the news story, but so that came out, right? And that's already like anticipation of division. Like now, whoever, I think Trump actually probably initiated it. I can't confirm that for sure.
He initiated it. Yes.
He initiated it, which is already rallying people up. Like he's got a base, like he's got a hardcore base, and he's already calling for protests and all this stuff. And it hasn't even happened yet. Like, can you imagine if and when it does? Like if they actually can you indict or can you arrest a former president? I mean, the Secret Service is there to protect the president. Are they going to allow him to be arrested? I mean, how's this all going to play out? And if it does play out, if he does get arrested, then what kind of unrest is that going to produce because of that action, right? So we know that when he was talking about, when he lost the election, he's like, oh, it's rigged. It's all this stuff. I don't even think he called then. I don't think he called for protesting. He might have.
He did a little bit. He said stand up, but he didn't say charge the Capitol.
Stand up. He didn't say charge the Capitol. His base charged the Capitol. He didn't incite that, right? So with just him saying stand up, his base took that and just went too far with it. And I'm not condoning the Capitol, all that stuff. I mean, I'm not even going to speak on that because that's going to cause division in and of itself. But can you imagine if that happened? You know, he lost the election. He's saying we need to stand up to this injustice. If he gets arrested for something like this, for this, what his base might do then?
Yeah, I think it was a play on, even if, okay, so you can look at it from two aspects. One, it is actually going to happen. If he calls out that it's going to happen and it does happen, it gives enough time for people to build up the anticipation, possibly get there to help go against it. It gives other people to start getting the mindsets of why is he being indicted? Why is he going to be arrested? And then come up with their own thoughts on, well, that doesn't seem right, or maybe they do think it's right. It's going to cause a lot more conversation. It's going to cause a lot more, from the aspect of if it is wrong and they're just trying to arrest them before, I saw a lot of things, a lot of content out there where there's a lot of movement to make sure he doesn't run. So they're trying to hold him in jail or prison or whatever for however long it's going to take. I mean, look at the January 6 people. They've already been in jail for 2 years. Some have passed away from just being in jail. So if they can start that now and get that process going, why would they not want to have a chance where he doesn't run? But even if it doesn't happen, does it not happen because he brought it up ahead of time, caused enough of a disturbance within the media to think about like, oh shoot, if we do this, are we going to have a lot of repercussions now because we have more vision on it? We have more people with their eyes on this situation, whereas we could always negate those issues if like he was already taken into custody. We could say it was something else related.
Yeah, you make a great point.
I think it's twofold. You can look at it from a lot of aspects.
You can. Like you make a really good point about how this is planned and all that, and I'm not saying this is what's happening, but you can only imagine the left they don't want him to run and they view him as a threat and all that. So I think you saw this before, during his whole presidency, you're talking, the whole thing was like Russia collusion and all that other stuff that they just slammed over and over and over again. This might be another tactic where it's like if we can get him out of the field, then we may have a better chance of taking the next election. I don't think it's going to happen because DeSantis is going to run. He's probably going to take it anyway. But the bottom line is, that's just my personal opinion. But anyway, the bottom line is that if what you made a good point, like if he causes enough of a pre-ruckus, to the people who are calling the shots, like, hey, FBI or whoever, let's hold on this because the real reasons why we're pushing this isn't because of some hush money scheme. It's we don't want him to run. Like, we just want to silence him. We want to do all that. And, you make a great point, and it's a thing to think about. Like, but the point of all of it is, am I saying that all this division and divisiveness that we have in this country, is it necessarily wrong? Is it a bad thing? I don't think division is necessarily a bad thing for some instances.
No.
And let me explain. So what happened? Let's just stay on the president train. Why did Trump win the first election? People were sick and tired of everything that was going on. Prior to, like, during Obama, during all that, they're done. They were done. There was a good portion of the population that was just done with all of the scheming and
financial
all of this, financial issues and all that. They were just done with it. And here comes this dude, right? Here comes this guy, this reality TV show guy who just happens to be a gazillionaire, good with business or whatever, starts talking like nobody else has talked before. He starts just saying things that you would not ever hear out of a politician because he was real and people connected with that. But why did he win the election? It's because, during the whole election thing, there's a thing going on with Hillary and all that investigation stuff and yada, yada, yada. And people knew that. They're like, this is part of the reason we're just sick of it. We're sick of all these dirty, corrupt people. Trump may not be the best president, but you know what? He's different and he's got ideas, and you know what? We're going to give him a shot. And he won. It was an upset. He won, right? What Trump is really good at is speaking to people on their level. Like he's really good at that. You know, he doesn't use big political terms or anything like that. He just like, he'll talk to you like he's real.
Like you're a real person and you're a normal
like you're
person.
a real person
Yeah.
and people relate. Like they're like, finally somebody that can talk my language, like, and understands what I'm going through as the little guy here on in the middle class or whatever. So he has the ability to do that. But he's very good. Once he had that base, like he's very good at, I don't even want to use the word manipulate that base, but he's very good at starting ruckus, leading.
Yeah.
He's very good at that. Right. And that's just one instance. We're just talking about one guy in one sector, you know, politics. And we don't try to get into politics on this, on the show, because everybody has different opinions and it's really divisive. Speaking of which, we're talking about division, right? But my point with the initial statement of, is division necessarily bad? No, not necessarily. Like, this is how democracies work. You have opposing views, which essentially could be defined as division. You have a view on this, I have a view on that. We are divided because we are not on the same side. Let's debate, let's talk, and let's come to a conclusion. And whether we agree or disagree, or you win me over and I win you over, let's at least at the end of the day shake hands, respectfully disagree with each other, and we can all move on being friends, right? But that's not how a country works. Like that's not how people are different.
I was just about to say division is healthy, but that's when there used to be conversation, to your exact point.
Yes.
People used to actually be able to speak their mind, speak their thoughts. Like, hey, why are you backing this certain person? What led you to pick that person? You would give your rebuttal. You would say why. They'd say, interesting. Okay, I don't really see it that way. I see it more like this. And you actually had a conversation. Conversations don't take place anymore. It is my way or the highway.
Yep. And I think,
the fact is that we've got technology today. I call them keyboard warriors. People use their keyboards to do all the talking today. And that's because they can stay hidden. Because I could put a profile picture up where you can't see me. You don't have to see my face. I can trash on somebody and they will never know who I am. I never have to deal with the repercussions. But then you put that person face to face and they're like, whoa. I don't want to really say anything because, I don't want to, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where technology today is just, it's harmful.
people got big kahunas when they're behind a screen. But when you actually confront somebody face to face, and even not in an aggressive way, just in a let's just talk opposing opinions way, people are they're chicken. They don't want to do anything. And I think what started this whole, what started it all? The whole keyboard warrior, as we'll coin the phrase now, wasn't an issue back in 2006, whenever Facebook really got off the ground, right? Before that, there was MySpace. For those of you who are pre-millennial, know what MySpace is, but I don't think it was that was different than what Facebook became. And that's when I think everything just blew up, is after Facebook started doing ad revenue and like businesses and all that really started moving towards the platform because social media was like the new thing.
It started driving the mindset. Here's the mindset you should have. And I think that's where our biggest thing is. Now, there's always been riots. There's always been protests. You could look at it from every era. You could see plenty of the signs being held up, hell no, we won't go, or whatever the case may be. The phrases are always out there that people come up with. But think about it from the aspect of those were people there in that moment that were protesting for their thoughts and that kind of stuff. Now you've got it where that's now being advertised on TV. That's now being pushed on Facebook. You've got all of these different platforms that people are on and follow where that visualization, that communication, whatever, that component is now being broadcasted on a massive scale.
Yeah. And what happens when you broadcast things on a massive scale, as the end user consuming that, you have your own interpretation of what's going on. You have your own interpretation of that because you're not there. You don't have all the facts. You get a small blip of what's going on and you draw a conclusion based on that 15-second snippet of video or audio or whatever you're consuming that with digitally, and you draw your conclusions from that. The other thing I would say about, like, in the past, before all this, you had riots, you had protests, you had things like that. I think on the protest side, I mean, that's part of like our Constitution. Like the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech allows us, if we don't agree with what government's doing, to go to the streets and protest it. Now, the difference I see in that form of division is that versus today's form of division and protest is, if you watch today, there is hate in people's eyes.
Oh yeah.
Like there is hate.
Blood.
Not just disagreement, not like I don't like what you think or how you think, but I legitimately, because you think this way, I now have hate in my heart towards you. Whereas if it came down to it, I would cause physical harm to you because I hate you that much in the way you think. I think that's the biggest difference between 1960, 1970 protests and all that stuff versus today's protest. I mean, look at what happened just with, I mean, and not only just the hate, but there's,
destruction. That's the word that keeps coming to my mind.
The destruction. Yeah. I remember clear as day. I don't remember a whole lot. Like my short-term memory sucks, people. But one thing that is seared into my brain is when all of the protests and riots happened with George Floyd and police brutality and all that stuff. The only thing that's seared in my brain wasn't the protests, wasn't the, hey, let's reform police brutality, let's defund the police. That's not seared into my brain. That was a protest. That was like, these are our ideas. We don't like how police is working. We want to reform police. We want to defund them. Okay, that's your opinion. Great. But what seared into my brain was people breaking into businesses. And I remember this one shot of this girl coming out of some shoe store, and she's like, I got new shoes, like, because of this. Like, it's turned into people are using the opportunity of protest and riots, and like it turns into violence, and then people will prey on that violence, and people will go and like that business that's they feed off of it. That business, that shoe store or whatever, it just looked like a mom and pop shop. It didn't look like some big brand shoe store, but like, what did that business owner could have been in the same streets you were, and you went and destroyed that entire business, looted everything off of it, and there it is. I mean, people are just, it's becoming really, really evil. And social media has played a role into really bringing out who people are at their core. In their hearts, this is who you really are. Social media has brought that out. Look at TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these people that are getting on there because it's a platform and you're digital, so nobody knows where you are. You can say whatever the heck you want to say on those platforms with almost no repercussions. No repercussions you can say on those platforms. And you really can learn about a person based on their social media history and what they say. And
And to your point, the no repercussions, I have the same thoughts. So we have, even locally in our own town, when there's some kind of protest or riot going on, all I can envision is the cars being tipped on their sides, lit on fire, business windows being shattered. But there's no repercussions from that. It's this group of people came through, caused mass chaos and destruction. They're not getting charged for it. They're not going to jail. You got a lot of these big cities that have catch and release for all of their policies now, where, I mean, people are literally murdering other people. I was very distraught the other day when I watched a video of this guy. And I didn't even know what the video was about. It's just, that's how social media is. It's constantly pushing more and more content towards you. But how frustrating it is when you're seeing a guy talking on a cell phone and then pulls out a gun and shoots a homeless guy in the head right in, like, there's somebody recording that, doesn't realize what's happening. He's just like, this is really weird that this guy is standing right next to this homeless guy. Pulls out a gun and shoots the homeless guy in the head and kills him. It's that kind of content that, like, we're being pushed towards. That kind of content is one. Two, that's just, it's another day. You know, like, what is going on? There's no, nothing is being done to fix those problems. And that's what's sad. That's the worst part of today's society. And then the other piece I wanted to bring up is, and I'm guilty of this, but drawing conclusions on such a small amount of content, no fact checking. Like, because people have gotten so good at editing videos, because people have gotten so good about showing my views and my beliefs and my whatever, and the way they film it and that kind of stuff. Like, oh, did you know that you can grow blank from avocados? like you could literally come up with anything. I saw somebody poke a straw through one end of the avocado, poked a straw on the other end of the avocado, and blew through it, and the seed popped out. You know how many people are going to be like, oh, that's so cool. I can't wait to do that next time. There's no fact checking it in any way. It's just like, that's what it is. That's real life because it was filmed. And it doesn't matter if it's a instructional video. It doesn't matter if it's a political video. It doesn't matter what kind of video it is. People take it at face value that this is the way, and it just blows my mind that there is no thought behind most content these days. I mean, there's thought to putting it together, the production value of it, but there's no thought behind if it's actually true or not. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of following for people in the groups that actually, I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not any of that kind of stuff. I have accounts with all of it. I used to be at one point in time, but there's a lot of people that take these TikToks and take these YouTube reels or Facebook reels and say, does this actually work? Is this real or not? So those people are starting to get a lot of traction because, this thing that I thought was real for so long isn't actually real.
Yeah.
So,
and the question I always have, or that I have when I start consuming all of this negative content, and I start seeing the division and all this stuff, I'm overwhelmed, and I literally look at myself in the mirror and I go, how do you fix it? What can I do to contribute to making this better? And I never can come up with an answer other than personally myself, try to be a good human being and treat people with respect and honor and just be a good human being, right? If I did that personally, okay, does that, it's not going to fix anything, right? And I don't think this problem is, right. I mean, we're so deep down the rabbit hole on this thing. I don't even know if it is fixable. It's going to take something miraculous for this stuff for us to come back together on stuff. But I look at what can I do to fix that? Now, one thing, I mean, I guess you could say one thing that we were trying to do is we started this platform where we talk about preparedness. But you know what? It's not a platform where we drive fear into people and go, hey, this is going to, this asteroid or planet Nibiru or whatever, that planet X is going to crash in Earth and we're all going to die. Like, we don't instill fear, and we try to stay positive, and we have talks like this where we talk about the division. We're not trying to point out who's right or who's wrong. I think the whole point of it is like, how can we fix it? Like, how can we come together as a community to just help fix it? Because there's two ends. I see two ends of the spectrum on this division thing. There's the people that are just on board with it and just feed off of division, because it'll get them likes or views or whatever. And then there's the opposite side of the spectrum of people that are completely against division and they want to be good people, but they tout and they almost attack the opposite person. If I'm a good Samaritan on the opposite side, I'm coming to you and going, you're a piece of garbage because you think this way and because you said this thing. You are trash. You're the reason why this world sucks and blah, blah, blah. You need to come to Jesus and get saved and blah, 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 blah. And that just drives people further and further apart. Can there be a middle ground? Can there be like a person that, or a group of people that are like, not, I don't want to say indifferent, but are mature adults? Like, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Like, a lot of this division is from adults that are just immature adults, right? Yeah, they may have core beliefs and they may really believe what they believe, but they're to cause division and to put other people down. I mean, that's childish. I mean, we did that back in middle school, right? Is there a group of people in the center that can take all of this, both sides of the spectrum, and not try to prove who's right or who's wrong, but like try to bring people together and go, because if we can't do that as a group, then I don't see how we fix this. And I don't know anybody who has a plan or even ideas of how to fix this whole thing. I don't know. I've not watched one video on this that says, hey, this is how we fix this. Or, we can't fix this, but if this happens, we may fix it down the road. Like, how do we avoid the next civil war is what I'm talking about. Because I think that's the way it's going. I mean, I really do. Yeah. Like, it's just one of those things where if we keep going down this road, we're one ride away from civil unrest on a massive scale. And I don't want that to happen. And I don't think anybody watching wants that to happen.
Yeah. And I agree. I haven't heard anything myself. I haven't watched any videos. I haven't read any books on how to fix these certain scenarios. I see a lot of videos on how to save the Constitution, how to do this, how to do that. But when it comes to being a decent human being and helping others be decent human beings, it's not something that's taught or seen that I've seen so far. But
because I could tell you this before you get into that next thought, because I'll forget this. So obviously, there's a solution to every problem. I believe that. I believe there's a solution to every problem. And some people would say, and I would be even in this camp, like, I'm a Christian. I grew up in church. I did all, I've gone through all that, right? And I still am to this day. I still believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, came to this earth, died for all our sins. I believe all of that stuff. And the answer you all out here is, well, just, people just need to come to Jesus, right? I get that. And I'm not saying that that's the wrong way to go at all. I think that's the only way to really fix all of this on a global scale is like, it's going to take divine healing for this stuff to really like heal itself.
Right.
But if I shove that down people's throats all the time, if I'm just on my platform all the time saying, come back ye sinners because you blah blah blah, like I see it so many times every single day where somebody has an opinion about something and the person who disagrees is this Bible thumping shove Jesus down your throat, you are a sinner and you need to come back to Jesus like comments. And it drives me up the stinking wall because the people that do that are making it worse. You don't shove biblical scripture down people's throats because you disagree with them. You be an example. You show Christ-like life. You do all the things on your own life that people will recognize and see. And they go, why is this person so much different than everybody else? What are they doing different that I'm not doing? Why are they always happy? Why are they always this? And then you take that opportunity to go, this is why my life is different. It's because I'm a follower of Jesus, because I'm that. It's not like because I'm a follower of Jesus and I read my Bible, I'm shoving, James 4:14 down your throat because you suck. Like, come on. This was my rant towards the Christians. I'm sorry. I am with you. I believe in Jesus, but you know what? Some of you guys really just need to stop with this Bible thumping.
Just need to settle down.
Attack. Settle down.
You can still have that. You can have the mindset, but you need to redirect. You need to phrase it differently. I agree on your point wholly about acting a certain way, because I have a lot of friends that are very big in Jesus and God, and they seem happier. They seem wealthier. They seem like they've got their life more together. Like you see those kind of things about those people. And that's how you but that's how you direct more people and promote towards that lifestyle is, hey, I'm happy. And I know it's because Jesus is coming and blah, 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 blah. Like you can have that conversation then at that point. Completely agree. But as you were talking, the other thing I could think of was it's not being taught. It's not being taught from the parents' perspective because we don't know what to do. It's not being taught in the school systems on how to, when I say being taught, what I mean is a code of conduct, I guess, or a code of how you should act, how you should react, how you should whatever to certain scenarios.
How to be a decent human being.
Yeah. We try from a parental perspective on redirecting our children, adjusting how they think, adjusting how they talk to people, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know if we necessarily teach the whys, like why do you do it this certain way rather than this certain way? How is it going to affect them differently? But it's also not being taught in school in the sense of what, like the honor and the justness and I'm just trying to think of I always think of like a knight, there's a book that I've got in my Amazon list. At some point in time, I'll get it because I actually really, really want to read it. It's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. I just think it would be really cool. But that's what I always think of. I always think of just how you hold yourself up and represent and how you lead throughout the day, every day. I think it's going to be more of a teaching. We actually need to teach it better in our schools. I mean, you've got like the anti-bullying and stuff that's being taught in schools. So I guess there is some sort of that going on. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like I still, and even now that you were talking, I was thinking about even just my rant I did 2 minutes ago, like understand that it's okay. I think it's okay to have emotion about this, to be angry and upset. Like I get upset when I see other Christians like slamming the opposite side. Like that angers me because it's not in my opinion, it's not the right way to do it. But it's how you approach and how you direct and how you present the opposing view. And the whole point of this talk, as we've been blabbering along for 42 minutes, is about division in our country. Like everybody sees it, everybody knows it. It's there, it's growing, it's festering. It's like a bacteria right now that's just feeding off of everybody. Is there a way to fix it? And, and it's going to, and in my opinion, yes, there is a way, but it's not an achievable way. Like it's not going to happen in my opinion. So how do you I mean, obviously in the preparedness mindset, we're trying to prepare for all scenarios, solar flares, World War III, banking collapse, civil unrest. Well, this probably can come into that civil unrest camp. Cause even though and I made a statement, we're the next ride away from like civil unrest nationwide. Yeah, that's a stretch, but for me to say that, I'll retract that a little bit. But in your city, in your suburb, like look what happened. Like I live in Wisconsin. What happened in it wasn't Kenosha a couple years ago. What happened in Kenosha? Kenosha up north of me, it's not a big city, right? But there was like civil unrest. There was buildings burning. There was people getting shot, right? People need to, like, if you think that riots happen in only big cities and civil unrest happens in big cities, look at Kenosha, Wisconsin a couple years ago, for crying out loud. You need to prepare for social unrest because it's like we're one matchstick away from anywhere in the country just lighting on fire. And if people need to just be ready for that and prepare for that.
One last thing I want to bring up when it comes to that topic. It actually makes me refer back to college for some reason. In college, I think one of my most favorite classes was my philosophy class. Okay. Learning about virtues, learning about just bringing up different topics and getting in heated discussions with people, but how to resolve those issues. I think that's something that's just missing from normal discussions and normal classes for today. But I actually wrote down on my board behind me, I actually have 4 virtues written down on my board that I strive towards being better at on a daily basis. But the virtues are prudence, courage, temperance or self-control, and justice. And I think if you follow those 4 virtues, I found it one day on some video or reading a book or something like that and wrote those down on my board. But every day I walk in and out of this room thinking about those values or those virtues. And I think that's just missing from people's lives today. It's just, what are your values? What are your virtues? How can you be a better, decent human being? And I think that's something that just needs to be enforced more. I don't know if it's more like.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's good when you have something written down in front of your face every single day to kind of remind you why you wake up in the morning and, all that. I could tell you out of those that you mentioned, I need to work on temperance a lot because when I see injustice, my temper and I will fly off the handle at injustice. I just can't stand it. Like, and I can say this just
fly off the handle in their own ways too.
And that people fly off the handle in their own ways. So like, I'm not even saying that when we're talking about, people flying off the handle and attacking other people. Like I'm in that camp sometimes too. And it's a struggle. We're human beings. We're infallible. We're dumb. Like we let emotions drive us. But like, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to pick some virtues that I want to continue to work on, and I'm going to put them right there and just look at it every day. And I think that's going to be a big help for me. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that because now I'm going to do that. That's good. That's good. And for those of you
now, and make sure the only thing I would recommend is put it in front of you. I'm looking over here every time, but that's because I walk in and out of the room. But it would be better if it's right in front of me. I think that's something I've learned over the years, is having a visual reminder is key to helping you remember that. It's just like the Bible. I mean, back in the day, and I mean, I say back in the day, even today, but our nation was founded on Christianity and that kind of stuff. And in the Bible, it's something that was constantly read, constantly citing scripture and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Would you say that's happening daily for everybody today?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Our country was founded on biblical principles, and I'm sorry.
And how it ties to all of our Bill of Rights and all that kind of stuff.
You can argue about that all day long, but if you know anything about history, people, just go back and like read the stories of how the Constitution was written and the Bill of Rights and all of that junk. It's like all ties back to biblical principles. And we as a country have been trying to shove that away and out and forget that, go back to our roots of what makes this country so great and all of that stuff. So I'll get off that horse, but you sent me a link to something.
Yeah. So when we were talking about the topic of like a national divide, it instantly reminded me of something I watched probably 2 weeks ago now at this point, maybe 3 weeks ago, from Warrior Poet Society. So this isn't a what do you call it, a pin, or I'm not pushing them. They're not a sponsor.
We're not sponsored by Warrior Poet Society.
It'd be cool, but it's not a plug or anything. But as I was watching a video by John here, that's the content that I'm watching. He actually brought up national divorce. Here's what he thinks. And I don't know. What are your thoughts? It might be good to play that. And he's got it broken down by segment. So like national divorce. I think what we can do. Ethics.
Yeah, what we can do is because I used to watch this guy's videos and they were super good. Like he's really, really good, really well spoken. I think it's a 12-minute video. So I think we just play a couple segments. We'll play a segment or so. We'll talk about it a little bit. And we'll just get his perspective, because his whole thing is national divorce. And my first question is, does that mean like we're seceding from the union? What does that mean? So I do want to play this. It looks like, based on the segment,
it was good. When I did watch it, it was good. I can't remember everything off of it because it was 2 weeks ago and we absorb so much content on a daily basis but I do remember watching it and walking away with like, oh, that was a good video. So
no, let's, I think we should watch this. Let me go to my screen share here and we can go from there. Let me close this out. I can't. Okay. 23. Okay. If you can't hear the audio, just let me know, but I think I got it coming through. So let's watch segment 1 and then we'll come back to it. And if you guys are watching live, seriously, like you can ask questions in the comments, in the chats, the live chats, all this. We'll see them as this is going on and we can talk about it. So in any case, let's watch this first segment and then we'll come back to it.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm John Lovell, Warrior Poet Society. Earlier this week, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from the great state of Georgia, mind you, that's my state. Fist bump, fist pump. She said this: we need a national divorce. We need to separate red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this. From the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies, we are, and it goes on. And then from October of 2021, there was a poll.
Yeah, wow.
So very strong statements right off the bat.
Holy crap.
The only thing I want to bring up is it's interesting when we talk about this whole division and all that kind of stuff. It's clear, especially from the political mindset, from the social media, from whatever, like it is Republicans versus Democrats. And I'll be first to say it's not always the case. You know, you could be a Democrat person and not agree with certain values or mindsets or whatever that the others are pushing from a Democratic Party. That's why you have different extremes of both sides. So we're not promoting that, you know, we're one way or the other. You can probably tell which way we lean based on our conversations and how we prep and all that kind of stuff. But it's nothing us saying against any like Democratic Party or Republican Party that you're either one way or the other and you're horrible if you're either one of those directions. So just want to put that out there because this, I mean, But anyways, go ahead. I just wanted to.
I got so much you could say, but I'm just going to wait. Okay, here we go.
She ran that said, should America have a national divorce? And it's telling that 43% of folks said yes. Wow. 47.7 said no, stay together, and 9 were in the gap and didn't know.
That's a large number.
The fact that 43% said yes in that poll.
Did it say how many people were in the poll? 85,000 people. And
85
for just one person and a Twitter post. Now, I mean, it could be bots, but a lot of those bots have been reduced. A lot of work has gone in. So, wow. And that's 85,000 of, you're going to get people that hate her guts, and you're going to get people that like her a lot. But the fact that 43%, it could be pro-Democrat, pro-Republican, it doesn't matter. But 43% said, yeah, it needs to be Republican versus Democrat states.
And what blows my mind is number. 9% of those 84,000, what is that? All 7,000 people were like, I don't know. Really? You don't know? Oh, Lord have mercy on my soul. Okay, here we go.
Said no, stay together, and 9 were in the gap and didn't know what to say. And all of it just goes to show that I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene when she says, everyone I talk to says we need to break up and split up. And I think the hostility is real, that there is this massive divide that keeps growing more and more. We're a divided nation. But let's have the conversation on a national divorce, because I think this is a conversation that folks are having. People are worried about civil war, and that looks really awful. Of like, don't like the civil war option. We've done that where over 500,000 Americans are battling out and dying. And why would we think that that's going to go over better now? There's no peaceful secessions that have been happening throughout history. It's always bloodshed. But I notice as we're trying to stay unified, like two unequally yoked partners in a marriage that just despise each other, staying together is toxic. And hey, guess what? Separation is going to be pretty ugly as well. So I have my own solutions on, hey, how in the world do we get out of this mess? I want to talk about secession and a national divorce, and how in the world something like that is that even tenable? Is that even possible? And by the way, all of the ideas seem terrible to me. So just with that in mind, we'll
glad he's up front.
I wanted to take a moment.
Yeah, sounds about right.
How in the world did we get here? And that can be telling as well, to pop any idyllic notions of how we could get out of it. We're in this because we no longer as a country have anything we really agree on. Our value center has been utterly crushed and annihilated into oblivion. So Americans, there's two completely different ethics, and the common ground between us has been eroding for a long time. And now the chasm is so great between us, we have zero common ground that we can even have a conversation on it. Here's two different ethics that are emerging. So it's not red party versus blue party. It's two separate versions of morality. So it's deeper than just politics. This is philosophy, this is theology, and always the repercussions of these can get really bad when a nation is divided against itself. Jesus says a house divided against itself cannot stand. Abraham Lincoln, quoting Jesus, would have the exact same sentiment. Guess what? A nation divided against itself cannot stand. So that means whether we have a national divorce or not, we're divided, and our nation cannot stand. We cannot continue with status quo as it is. It will not work. It is not working. It's going to get even worse. I posted on my Twitter account recently because I'm extremely active on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Here's my handle. And I said, for all of you guys who are scrolling around looking for news, it's all bad. I already checked the news. It's all bad. Guess what? It's getting worse all the time. All the news is terrible. And so post in the comments right now, give me one good piece of news. You can comment later on some other stuff in this video.
That right there. Give me one piece of good news. So JT, can you think of one piece of good news that you've seen recently?
That I have seen on, like, as I'm perusing the news feeds and all that stuff.
Anywhere. Yeah, anything.
The fact that it's taken me this long should tell you something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, since he made that comment, I can't think. I mean, you see a bunch of videos on like, oh, here's puppies or something like that, but that's just something to distract you. But I can't actually think of a good. I haven't seen anything on the news like, oh, this
That's a major
kid
national
was
story of
saved.
something good.
Yeah, this kid was saved from this, pothole where, firefighters have whatever. Instead it's just like, oh, another fire outbreak or chemical spill or whatever. I can't think of any good news that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So
that's the start of
sad.
it. Start spreading a little bit more good news, because there's good things that are happening out there, people. Like there are. Like we're not just this country is not all evil, but there are good things. Just we're not reporting on it because it doesn't sell ads. I'm not going to go there, but anyway.
What's the guy from The Office? Is it John Krasinski or something like that? Or what's his name?
What's the character? What's the Office character?
I knew you were going to ask that. Hold on a second. It is Jim Halpert. So John Krasinski, doesn't he do like a something good like newscast? I'm going to look it up. We could keep watching this. I'm going to look it up. But
look it up. Yeah. Okay, here we go. 2 different ethics.
But give me some good news. I'm just hungry for it because everything just seems really bleak. Now, I mentioned we have a completely separate ethic. One side would say one nation under God, God-fearing. The other side would say one nation under government. One morality say there is freedom of speech. It's a God-given right. You have the right to free speech. And the other side says, no, some types of speech is not free. And if you say the wrong thing, express even the wrong ideas, you can be censored and canceled. How dare you? One ethic says abortion is murder, and the other one says, no, it's a good thing. You can be able to abort. It's women's rights. One system of morality says, hey, Second Amendment is good. You have the right to defend yourself, whether that's from bad guys kicking in your door or whether it's tyrannical governments wanting to enslave you. And the other side says, nope, guns are bad. Get rid of guns. As Gavin Newsom would recently say, that it looks like Second Amendment is a suicide pact, even greater than that. And it looks like we have 2 different notions of what truth is. Hey, a man is a man and cannot become a woman any more than you can become a dinosaur. And if you think I'm stupid, that's how your trans woman and trans man sounds stupid. You cannot become another gender. It's not a thing. Therefore, I cannot be transphobic because I don't actually recognize you can even do that. It's not a possibility. And so I'm like, what do you do with that? We can't even have a conversation anymore. And that's how we got to this great rift that is growing more, and we don't have a mechanism that can even bring us back together. The divide is bad, and it is getting worse. And I think many of you out there, though you wouldn't articulate it the way I necessarily have, you're probably nodding it in your computer screen or your phone, however you're watching, and you're being like, yes, yes, yes. But what in the world do we do about it? Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, hey,
there we go.
Let's have a divide. And in some ways, I'm kind of like, hey, you know what? California, you do you. And Texas, you do you. And the big monkey in the room is kind of like, well, all right, you got millions of soldiers and incredible advanced weaponry. Who controls that? And what, do they just live and let live all of a sudden? And everybody just sort of like, hey, we're seceding. I'm like, all right, that's cool, man. Have fun doing your own country thing. Remember, we already did the Civil War thing. The idea was the North saw the South engaging in crimes against humanity and a bunch of other ills that they had as well, but they saw a great social evil. And guess what? I see social evils of crimes against humanity happening on the other side of the aisle. Transing kids and doing awful stuff to human babies. I think that's greater crimes against humanity than even the horrid act of slavery, which thank God we are over now. But now you're murdering babies. That's even worse to me. What is the answer to this? You just split up and the federal government and the military just lets you go? In the case of a secession, a national breakup, the federal government would have to shrink in power. And you think it's just going to do that? We've wanted to do that for decades and decades, and we haven't been able to do it. But if we were able to shrink the size of the federal government, I don't think we'd be in a bunch of this problem anyway. And this is where I arrive at a solution. The solution is not a new idea. It's an old idea that's been cast aside, and it's called federalism. The 10th Amendment reads like this. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the United States respectively or to the people. In other words, we have our Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, that's basically saying, hey, federal government, you're not allowed to do this or this or this or this. The 10th Amendment as a catch-all says, hey, by the way, whatever is not enumerated here, the power lies with the states or the people. And that means the power with the states. Georgia should be able to do what Georgia wants in keeping with the Constitution. But instead, we have the opposite. State power has been shrinking over and over for generations. And
true.
the federal government, which now has millions of employees, has been growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that's the trade-off. States have more power and the federal government has less, or the federal government has more and the states have less. It is a mutually exclusive option. So for states to secede, the federal government has to shrink. But we're not capable of shrinking it. If it was keeping with the 10th Amendment, we wouldn't be doing all this, hey, tyrannical, crazy stuff, and we could just, hey, my home state could just decide its own stuff and we'll keep with the Constitution. And if somebody tries to attack us, we will hit them with the hammer of the American military. And that'd be fantastic and that'd be great. There's a lot of problems that would immediately be solved in a great national divorce. You know, like already we're moving toward a parallel society. I'm like, well, I'm not sending my kids to public school. What, so the state can train them to be compliant little drones? Already parallel society in terms of self-sufficiency, alternate news, entertainment. In many ways, a national divorce would solve some of those problems. And I'm kind of like, yeah. But I think it would end up creating far more problems as well. And I think it would be absolute bloody disaster that would in the end fail. So I think the real feasible option here is this. We have to shrink the size of the federal government. We have to drain the swamp. We need a new wave of politician that doesn't really like politics, but has a moral fiber, that has courage, and that will actually vote conscience and the will of the people, and they refuse to take the big suitcase of money. And so I wanted to take this moment to announce that I will support those folks. There's no way in the world I'll get into politics. I hate that stuff. But I've got a platform. I'm doing a thing. I'm called to steward this platform, and I get to say whatever I want, and I'm not beholden to anybody. I get to say what I want, and I get to say what I think and what I really feel. And God, I pray, will give me the courage to keep speaking until finally they shut us down. So get involved in who is actually running your state. Who's running your local.
You made a comment that we've tried that. I don't know. Like, I think he makes a good point. I think you can see the government kind of entanglement on many, many levels. I think you'll run into problems where people, if they say we need to shrink the government, we need to shrink the amount of money they hand out and that kind of stuff, that's where people start like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't, because there's so many programs that are funding schools today or programs today or ways of life today.
But all those programs have strings attached to them.
Exactly. And where are they getting the money? Those aren't questions that are asked, though. Those are just, it's something that I've been getting and I want to continue to get, or it's something where there's already too much involvement, or there's already whatever. So like a good example is the defund the police. You've got so many scenarios where defunding the police, a lot of the city's police force is going away and going away and going away. But I want to say it was in Washington, D.C., as well as Chicago. I think those are the only two that I'm aware of so far. But there was I know you really need a police force and you can't get any, so we've got a federal police force. We can work on bringing those in. But as soon as you start getting those tie-ins, that's just one more scenario where the federal government's in there. I think that's where that overreach is starting to, I mean, the claws are in, the tentacles are in on every single scenario now. It's just hard to separate. You know, they always said separate church from state. I think it's the exact same thing. It's just separate federal from state. So, well,
when I made the comment, like, hey, when he said, hey, we need to drain the swamp, I mean, we tried that, or at least Trump tried that, or at least that was what he campaigned on, right? He's like, we need to drain the swamp. Yeah. And he was crucified for that. His whole presidency was nothing but investigations and this and that. He cut roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. Where the bacteria is so attached to all the cells in this thing called government that there's nothing, in my opinion or my view, and this is going to sound bleak, but there's nothing that is going to change that unless, like, I'll take it for this. I'll put this example on there. So I am a firm believer that, you know, people who are like, in order for somebody to really change, a human being to really change who they are at their core, they need to hit rock bottom. I mean, they need to literally hit rock bottom where they see no way out, and they need to climb out of the pit of being in rock bottom. I can only say that with confidence because I had to do that. I hit rock bottom in life, and I had to claw my way out, and it took grit where most people would just give up. You know, that's where true change happens. So that same analogy can parallel to the government and reform and draining the swamp. Is it's going to take us, the country, the government, the system, to hit rock stinking bottom. And what does rock bottom look like? It's not this realization that, oh, we've been going the wrong direction, let's just change how we are. No, it's going to take like a global event, a national event that's just going to rock us to our core.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like we almost had that, like with 9/11. Remember, I don't know if you remember 9/11 happened. I remember 9/11 because I was at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I was sitting in the missile silo. I remember we went on lockdown, and for that whole time after 9/11, like the country seemed to be somewhat united. Like, yeah, we agreed. Let's go after the son of a and go get him. Right? Terrorism, war against terror. That's where that all birthed from, right? The nation went through something it hasn't gone through in a very, very long time. Like we were attacked on our home soil, right? By terrorists. So, but a lot of things have happened since then. There's been a lot more corruption, a lot more of this bacteria or this virus that's been growing within our country has spread out so far that I think it'll take more than a 9/11 to bring us back to a core, bring us back to a center, like he was talking about, because there is no center right now. He I couldn't have put it any better myself. It's like we have this opinion and we have this opinion, right? But there's nothing in the center that we can try to focus on and come back to come together. There's none of that.
Yeah.
So what does that potentially look like? Well, maybe, who knows? If a solar flare kicks off and takes out all the technology, is that a good enough center to where we all come together and like rebuild everything? I think there's going to be a calling of people because there's going to be mass chaos for a couple of years, but eventually we'll come back together, we'll reestablish it, and we'll be like, hey, let's try this again and let's do it right this time.
Yeah.
Or you know,
you could say that for financial collapse or something like that. World War.
Collapse. Yeah. Any of these big things that everybody's been talking about, financial collapse, World War III, a natural disaster that affects the whole globe, you know, the whole globe, Yellowstone blows up, an asteroid hits us, whatever. I think it's going to take an event like that to reset the system. I just don't see any other way. This whole idea,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a you know, I know there's already work to restrict big tech being involved in political whatever or pushing whatever. I know there's a push to get the news back to the way it was, where it's actually reporting news and not taking sides. You know, these networks are paired with these certain political parties. So yes, I think you're right. If we want to do a quicker purge / you know, get everybody going to thinking a certain way or mindset, I think there are some slow options, but man, I mean, that's where you have to have people on the same page, and you don't have that same page. To your point, we don't have a common ground. Even if you wanted to say we're a patriotic America, you still have people saying, well, no, you took it from the Indians. Like, people have an opinion against every single thing you put out there today.
Everything.
I don't know.
It's horrible. I mean, you can even say like people like us who prepare and all that stuff, you know, we're in a camp. But, you know, people would always look at us and be like, oh, you're those doomsday prepper guys, and, you know, you're into freedom and all this other stuff, and you don't, you know, and they'll it's judgment, right? It's just bad. You know, I can't, it's one of those things where there's a problem, and I like to try to find solutions to problems. Like, that's what we do. Like, our jobs, that's what we do. We're in tech. You know, we client has a problem, we're here to solve your problem and give you a solution. Like, that, I've always been a solutions guy, try to fix things that break, and I can't for the life of me figure out a way to fix this, and I couldn't do it on my own shoulders anyway. But I don't even have ideas on how to fix this. The only idea I have that will fix this is it's not a good outcome. Like, we'd have to go through some junk.
Yeah,
we'd have to go through some pain, and a lot of pain as a country. Like, pain is in, like, people will die on a massive scale for some people to just wake up, because today's society has been nothing but.
And it's so frustrating to even hear that, like, just to to even think that that's all we can think of as an option, and that people would be willing to go to that mindset instantly just to think that. That tells you right there how, I guess, dim it is. But
yeah, it's almost like instead of there's a group of people, instead of them trying to come together and fix this, they're coming together and going, how do we prepare for when this all goes down? Kind of like what we're doing, right? It's like, we would love to fix this, and we would love to participate in any group that stands up and goes, here's our plan. If it's a sound plan and it sounds good, I'll be the first one on that stinking train. But it's sad that we have to come together and go, okay, we can't fix this, so let's prepare for worst case scenarios. And it's unfortunate to have to say that. It's unfortunate that we have to come here and go, yeah, instead of trying to figure out how to fix this, we want to, obviously we want to be better human beings, treat people with respect, encourage that kind of behavior in people. But at the end of the day, we're going, that's not going to fix our problems. That's just going to make you a better human being. But while you're doing that, you also need to be freeze drying your food and making obscenely big gardens and learning how to live differently and change your mindset and have, bug out bags and get home bags and just like be vigilant and not have your head in the sand and pay attention to what's going on in the world and like having your eyes open, because it seems like what we're doing at the outset, somebody who's looking in, somebody who has never heard of prepping before, maybe looking at this live stream and going, you guys are just preparing for the worst. You have no hope. Well, you're not wrong. We are preparing for the worst. And I wouldn't even say we've lost all hope, but no, it's looking pretty grim. Like, I don't know how to fix it. And if I can't fix something, I need to prepare for the outcome of me not being able to fix it.
Yeah. And I think that's where, to my point earlier, having values, having virtues, having a moral standard is something that we need to strive towards more. And I don't know what that is right now. It might be something where, I've got the 4 virtues that I've got listed. Whether those are the end all be all or what other people should be following, I don't know. But having values that us as a nation can focus on, I think would be, to me, the next steps. It's not that we lost hope. It's just, I don't think that's something that's been lost. You see all these ancient philosophers and that kind of stuff that, they used to talk about this kind of stuff on a daily basis, but they've stripped that out of colleges. They've stripped them out of schools. There is no talking. It's rare to have like a philosophy class. I know I've asked my relatives that are 10 years younger than me, like, hey, did you ever have this in school and for college? And they're like, no, it's not even something that's taught anymore. Why are those mindsets that get you to actually think about certain scenarios? That's been stripped. So there is no more free thinking. It is, you think our certain way, or think the way content's being pushed towards you. So I guess that's my takeaway from this whole conversation is I think it's going to require more, not forceful thinking, but more, a more driven mindset towards a certain way of life and a certain mindset. So I don't know what those are, but I'm going to get those. I think we'll do a future podcast and talk about those maybe.
Yeah, those are good points. Two things I want to say, and then we'll wrap this one up. First is I as a thought experiment, I would wonder if we had a candidate, somebody who ran for office, whose whole platform was authentic, truly authentic, and did nothing but campaign on not draining the swamp, not like, healing the environment and doing all these issues. Just their only platform was, can we all come together? Can we all heal? Can we heal our nation? Can we come together? Can we go back to the way when our country was founded on biblical principles and just a real candidate that's just promoted like a lot of positivity and being a good human being and all this, and left all of the other garbage out. I wonder how that candidate would do in the polls. Like, I just wonder, and take, obviously he probably wouldn't do good because he wouldn't get any airtime.
Not have any money.
Blah, blah, blah. not having money.
Exactly.
Because
It's each one of these candidates is usually Democrat or Republican because they're getting funded millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that's how they're getting promoted to the top of the line.
Yes. So you and I, even though constitutionally you and I can run for president, right?
Yeah.
There's no way we can run for president because our system has morphed in such a way where we need to have so many millions of dollars just to get into the club. And I don't think that's how it was originally designed. It wasn't designed that way. Having voting and running and for public office, it wasn't designed in such a way to where you had to be rich or you had to make concessions on your values in order to get that specific person to give you money to run paid advertisement, to run social media campaigns, to run, to buy that big bus where you're going state to state to state and doing all your stuff that you do when you run for office. But the key is that we didn't have to use to sacrifice our values. And that's where I think a big problem is. If we didn't have to candidates that ran who may be truly great human beings, but a lot of them, I think, in order to get to where they need to go, it starts with running for office. But the first thing that you have to do is start sacrificing little values here and there to get money. And then once you get in office, right, all the things you want to do when you get into office, it's like, well, I want to focus on something that's good and positive. But in order to do that, you have to sacrifice a little bit more of your values here and there to get that one senator or that one congressman to sign off on it. You have to make a deal to say, hey, I'll vote for that if you put me on this committee or recommend me for X, Y, and Z. Like piece by piece, your values get sacrificed, and you can see it over time that those people change because they sacrifice their values one little piece at a time.
And those are going to be used against you in the future. So, hey, you used to think this way. Now you're thinking this way. So now you're a hypocrite.
Now you're a hypocrite and all that other stuff.
You've got
so,
all sorts of internet and stuff. Yeah. No.
In any case, people. Oh wait, that's not what I wanted. Sorry.
You want to make one more announcement, right?
Yeah, I did. What was it? I wish I could
next
remember
week
it.
Or.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. We'll go into that. So as we wrap this up, okay, we've talked about division. This has been a kind of bleak live stream. I apologize. We don't have the answers for this. We just know that, like, if you're listening, if you're still with us, thank you for sticking with us for this long.
And I would say it's supposed to cause you to think more about it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't think about these situations. We want you to actually like use your brain and think about these scenarios.
Yeah. Right. So think about this. I guess the takeaway from this would be, ask yourself, like, what can I do to be a better human being? Can I be a better, like, that's the whole goal. Like, just be a good human being, treat people with respect, treat people with honor. Even though we are preppers and we do kind of prepare for worst case scenarios, there's nothing in the book, the prepping book. There's nothing in the book that says you got to be a douche, right? You can be a good person and still be a prepper. I'm sorry if that was harsh language for somebody, but there's nothing in there. Right. There's nothing in there that says you have to be that. Like, you can be a good person. You can be a generous person. You can be all this other stuff. You can be a Christian in prepping. Most preppers are Christians, but you don't have to be a Christian in order to be a prepper. We're going to get into next week, Tuesday. We're actually going to hit this topic of preparedness. What's going on in the world geopolitically, what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, all the crap going on in the world, even down to like what's going on with the sun and the solar cycle. We're going to hit this from a biblical perspective. And no, this isn't going to be, we're going to shove a bunch of verses down your throat and say you need to come to Jesus. This is going to be, there are things happening in today's world that tie so closely to the Bible in today's generation. It will blow your stinking mind. We're going to have our first guest on the show for next week because I'm really excited for it. I am not smart enough to speak on this stuff. She's good. You do not want to miss Tuesday's broadcast. We're going to get into all this, and like I said, it's not going to be a Bible thumping, Jesus thumping, come to Jesus now, you sinner and heathen. It's not going to be that. It's going to be intriguing. We're going to tie science into what biblical prophecy. We're going to do all of that, and it's going to be super cool. We had the pre-interview, and I'm just super pumped for this guest we're going to have on Tuesday. So, with that being said, any final thoughts, Cameron?
No. Well, actually, the only thing I would look into is virtue ethics. As we were having our discussions and I was trying to look at virtue philosophers in our past, virtue ethics came up, and it says it's arguably the oldest ethical theory in the world, with origins in ancient Greece, defining good actions as ones that display and embody virtuous character traits. So maybe something to look into as you're pondering your next steps throughout the next few weeks.
Very good. Very good. Well, guys, appreciate you guys sticking with us. We will see you on Tuesday. And don't forget, if you're still watching on YouTube, Facebook, click the like button, subscribe if you want to get notifications when we go live. We typically are doing this Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we went so long my sound ran out. So anyway, typically do this at Tuesdays and Thursdays around 7:30, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. So in any case, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Appreciate. Oh no, we'll see you on Thursday. We're going to see you on Thursday.
Thursday we'll be
see
here
you on Thursday. All right. Anyway, that was the most horrible wrap up in the world.
No,
I should have
it's
fired as the
fine.
production guy. So, all right, guys, you guys take it easy. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Preppin Patriots podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a 5-star review. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so at contact@preppinpatriots.stream. And finally, this episode was sponsored by nobody.